here, and as promised, I am now filming a whole video on my reread of Daniel Deronda by the wonderful George Eliot. I felt this reread so deeply. I was apprehensive going into this reread. One, because George Eliot can be very wordy. She can be very philosophical. And I remembered a couple chapters in here that I felt very challenging. And I just thought, is it not going to live up to my memory? But it absolutely did. I gave it 5 stars all over again. And it was just such a delight to read this with Adam from Memento Mori and Kate from the novel Nomad, because this was their first experience reading George Eliot's works. And it was just such a treat for me to be savoring this, relishing it, now that she's such a beloved author of mine, and for them to be experiencing her for the first time and savoring her as well. So we read this over the month of September, and it was so lovely to savor George Eliot alongside them. And I found it interesting too. What I love about rereading classics is that you kind of will resonate with certain characters maybe differently than you did the first time around, and resonate with different characters that maybe you didn't feel as much of a connection to the first time around. Daniel Deronda is sometimes critiqued as, it should be called Gwendolyn Harleth. You have these two dual narratives as you're going through, and you're following Gwendolyn Harleth and you're following Daniel Deronda, the title character. And you do have a lot of Gwendolyn chapters here. You have a lot going on with Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn's family has lost a lot of their money. So she is dependent upon an uncle. And then at certain points, the uncle's fortune turns. And so then it is all, the onus is all the more even on Gwendolyn to figure out how she's going to take care of her family, what she will do to take care of them. And you're really seeing Gwendolyn's longing for the good life and what she thinks the good life is. She doesn't really know. So she's really finding herself and figuring herself out in this novel. And then alongside that, you're following Daniel Deronda, who does not know who his parents are. He has been raised by a sort of benefactor. And this is both a blessing and a curse. He doesn't know who his parents are. So it could be that he's really been taken out of a bad situation and he's staying with his benefactor now. But it's also a curse in that he's sort of, the haves and the have-nots. And so he's sort of on the outskirts of society. Like, he is respectable enough to attend dinner parties, but he is not eligible for the young ladies to marry. So he's got this sort of half-life going, and he wants the good life. He wants something deeper. And so in many ways, I think this novel is a novel of longing. And like I said before, you do get about as much time with Gwendolyn as you do with Daniel. But Adam put it so beautifully, as he does so many observations when I'm reading with him, that he thinks Daniel is the heart of this novel. And I would definitely agree with that. The issues, societal, religious, economic, that Daniel really grapples with in this book, to me, are really the heart of this. Another interesting aspect of this is contrasting different characters, and Henley Grandcourt, and what a character, what a name for a character, is one of the main characters in this. And to see him contrasted with Daniel, I kind of thought as I was reading it that Henley Grandcourt embodies the very respectable, stiff upper lip form of masculinity that was really lauded by Victorians. If you show emotion, then you're showing weakness, and that is not masculine. Contrasted with Daniel, who feels free to show more emotion, and he is the more romantic era ideal of masculinity, this, openly weeping about things, showing vulnerability, and you can still be strong. It was very interesting to me that George Eliot decided to put that in. There's a lot of commentary in here on masculinity and femininity. And then I do also think that Gwendolyn has maybe some more masculine traits with how she is really kind of aggressively seeking out how she will have a fortune, how she will take care of herself, how she will achieve her happiness, and kind of willing to do a lot to achieve that, contrasted with Mira, who is, I love Mira. Mira is a woman who has lost her family. She is on bad terms with her father. She didn't feel safe. She thought there were certain things that were going to happen, that her father was sort of planning and plotting certain things. And so she decided the best option was for her to run away. And so she is hoping to find these lost family members that she doesn't know where they are. And so there's also this sense of longing for Mira. And also within this plot that George Eliot weaves into it so beautifully are different Jewish characters, and they're kind of longing for the fulfillment of the covenant that God promised to the Jewish people, and this longing of a true home for the Jewish people. And I think that the theme of longing just is woven very beautifully through these different characters that experience it in very different ways, but they all experience it. And it's just done in a way that only George Eliot could do it. I adore her so much. And I want to read a couple passages to you that particularly struck me. This one says, "It was an exquisite January morning in which there was no threat of rain, but a gray sky making the calmest background for the charms of a mild winter scene. The grassy borders of the lanes, the hedgerows sprinkled with red berries and haunted with low twitterings, the purple bareness of the elms, the rich brown of the furrows, the horses' hoofs made a musical chime, accompanying their young voices. She was laughing at his equipment, for he was the reverse of a dandy, and he was enjoying her laughter. The freshness of the morning mingled with the freshness of their youth, and every sound that came from their clear throats, every glance they gave each other, was the bubbling outflow from a spring of joy. It was all morning to them, within and without. And thinking of them in these moments, one is tempted to that futile sort of wishing. If only things could have been a little otherwise then, so as to have been greatly otherwise after. If only these two beautiful young creatures could have pledged themselves to each other then and there, and never through life have swerved from that pledge. For some of the goodness which Rex believed in was there. Goodness is a large, often a prospective word, like harvest, which at one stage when we talk of it lies all underground with an indeterminate future. Is the gem prospering in the darkness? At another it has put forth delicate green blades, and by, the trembling blossoms are ready to be dashed off by an hour of rough wind or rain. Each stage has its peculiar blight, and may have the healthy life choked out of it by a particular action of the foul land which rears or neighbors it, or by damage brought from foulness afar." And then another passage that says, "It was a delicious Sunday morning. The melancholy waning sunshine of autumn rested on the leaf-strewn grass and came mildly through the windows in slanting bands of brightness over the old furniture, and the glass panel that reflected the furniture, over the tapestried chairs with their faded flower wreaths, the dark enigmatic pictures, the superannuated organ at which Gwendolen had pleased herself with acting St. Cecilia on her first joyous arrival, the crowd of pallid, dusty knickknacks seen through the open doors of the antechamber, where she had achieved the wearing of her Greek dress as Hermione. This last memory was just now very busy in her, for had not Klesmer then been struck with admiration of her pose and expression? Whatever he had said, whatever she imagined him to have thought, was at this moment pointed with keenest interest for her. Perhaps she had never before in her life felt so inwardly dependent, so consciously in need of another person's opinion. There was a new fluttering of spirit within her, a new element of deliberation in her self-estimate, which had hitherto been a blissful gift of intuition. Still, it was the recurrent burthen of her inward soliloquy that Klesmer had seen but little of her, and any unfavorable conclusion of his must have too narrow a foundation. She really felt clever enough for anything. And I really appreciate what deep psychological examinations you get when you're reading a George Eliot book. You know, that last passage that I just read is Gwendolen kind of really analyzing and thinking about these experiences that she's had and trying to, summon this inner strength to go on and try to figure out exactly how she can succeed in life and get all of the things that she wants. Also, bonus points in this book that the Mayrick family were just as delightful the second time around. They are a family with 3 sisters and then the mother and their brother Hans, and they are such a delight. They take such... They relish and savor everything that they enjoy, the books and the music, and just they make so many different cultural references, and they just jump off the page. They come so alive, and I love them. They are really kind of the sweetness in this book. There are a lot of melancholy things in this, and that's something that I've realized as I've spoken with more people who are reading George Eliot for the first time. They're like, wow, well, that book was pretty sad. And then I think about it, yeah, you know, her books are pretty sad. There's definitely an ache to them. But I think when you look back at George Eliot's life, there was an ache to her life. There was a lot of longing that she had for things that didn't seem like she was going to get. And I think there's something very poetic about that, this theme of longing and how it connects back to her life and who she was as a woman, as a writer. And also something that's so remarkable to me about this book is that I said there were themes of kind of Judaism, and Daniel at one point goes to a temple service and, full of people attending, and is just filled with this overwhelming sense of community and belonging and just this overwhelming peace at being part of this collective group that all have this unity between them. And she just writes it so beautifully, kind of how the music is used and when the Torah is read aloud. And it's remarkable to me that George Eliot herself was not a person of faith, but she really seems to get why being part of a community of faith really does appeal to people. And, myself, it just really spoke to me. It was really beautifully written, just kind of the meaningfulness and the deep significance of symbolism in worship services, all of that. She really cornered that, specifically. I was just really in awe of the beauty she had in those scenes. And yeah, several of these passages I just kind of had to sit with for a couple minutes after reading them. So I was glad I could have done the audiobook, but I just chose with this. I really wanted to delve deep, even though I'd already read it. Something was just calling to me to delve deep, and I'm really glad that I did. So yes, George Eliot. I do love her. And gonna continue reading on. I really am looking forward to continuing to explore her books, and I really loved the first story in Scenes of Clerical Life. It was called Amos Barton, and I'm going to continue on with that. So that's my next order of business with George Eliot, and then I think it will be time for Felix Holt. So thank you, as always, for watching. Let me know if you have read Daniel Deronda, or if now, maybe you have plans to read Daniel Deronda. I will leave it at that, and I will be back for another video soon. Bye.